A very good morning to everyone. I am your host for this session, Ritika Poddar from IMAI. We would like to begin by thanking you all for being a part of GATO 2021 Digital Gaming The Next Leap. We would like to thank our partners, Title Partner Games 24/7, powered by AppsFlyer in association with Tracure, Platinum Partner OnePlus, Content Delivery Partner Limelight Network, supported by Invest India, Knowledge Partner RedSeer. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ali Hussain, CEO Eros Now, who will moderate today's discussion. We would also like to welcome Mr. Devneet Bajaj, Managing Director, Dream Capital and Chief Corporate Development Officer of Dream Sports. I would request all the delegates to post your questions on the Q&A tab, and the panel will address a selected ones. Over to you, Mr. Hussain. Yes, Mr. Hussain.
Yes, Ritika, we can get started?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for joining us, early in the morning for this 2021 IMAI GATO Summit. Would like to thank you for taking time out to kind of have a quick chat with me on gaming and kind of where it's headed in the next 3 to 5 years. So, if you don't mind, we can jump right into it.
Sure. Happy to be here.
I think one of the questions that comes about Dream 11 was, I think, founded in 2008, if I'm not mistaken, right? And
Yeah.
just a few months ago, or about a month ago, you guys announced Dream Capital, and your entire vision in terms of what you're looking to do within the extended kind of sports technology / gaming business. So I think it's a great start point for us to maybe talk a little bit about what's the mandate for Dream Capital, what are the kind of companies you're looking to work for, what stages of companies, what are the spaces, and what's the larger kind of, I would say, aspiration for the Dream 11 group over the next 3 to 5 years. I think that's a good start point, and we can then dive into some specifics from there on.
Yeah, no, like I said, happy to be here. Thanks, Ali, for inviting me. To get straight to your question, Dream Sports, which is our parent company, our umbrella brand, is now maturing into an organization that is going from, let's say, a star product, which is Dream 11, to new companies that we've incubated over the last couple of years with a business like FanCode, which some people have heard about, which already has 20 million users, that is designed for sports fan engagement. So on the success of those kinds of companies, we thought over the last 2 years that we should start our own corporate venture arm, which is called Dream Capital, which is the group that I manage. And the idea is essentially to do not reinvent the wheel, but do something in India that hasn't been done before, right? If you learn from companies like Intel, Google, Sun, IBM back in the day, corporate venture capital has been around for a very long time. I think it goes back to the days when DuPont invested in Ford. And I think we're trying to bring great standards and ethics into Dream Capital, and on the back of it, make investments in 3 areas that are complementary to us. Number one, as you would know, is sports is what we thrive on. Sports and sports tech. We also happen to be at the intersection of sports and gaming, so we're looking to make investments in gaming and fitness. So basically, what we decided is that there needs to be a dedicated group which runs the venture arm and makes investments like any other VC firm, very entrepreneur friendly, understands what the entrepreneurs need to do, and then goes beyond providing capital, aligns strategic objectives, and helps these entrepreneurs grow beyond just giving capital.
Understood. Just clarify one thing for me. Like, is there a specific stage that these companies need to come in to kind of be a part of kind of Dream Capital? And then talk to us about, once you kind of outline sports tech, fitness, and gaming, or fringes of gaming, if I can say so. If you can get into specifics in terms of some of the investments that you've already made, or at least publicly talk about what are the kind of companies that you're potentially looking for, just for the audience to get a sense, probably a better sense in terms of, how the overall group potentially potentially get structured over the short long term?
No, thank you for asking those questions. I should provide those details. We're looking to invest anything above $1 million, and it can go into go to about $100 million of a ticket size. So we're truly multi-stage, right? What we are looking for is a great team backing a great large addressable market, and with a vision on how to crack that market. That market may be crowded, may not be crowded, but what we need to buy into is the team's vision and their ability to execute. Beyond that, obviously, because we're multi-stage, right? At least at $1 million, we would like to see good research done, amazing team put together for a typical seed stage transaction. If we're doing a Series A or a Series B, obviously we're looking for some MVP for a Series A. For a Series B, we're looking for a product market fit, and then investing in growth dollars. Typical, nothing that you would not see in VC in the stages. Is that we're using multiple VC stages because we're very focused on the 3 to 4 sectors that we want to get into, we don't want to limit ourselves by saying, hey, this one's a little too early for us.
Got it.
And to give you an example, your second question, which was on gaming investments. Look, like I said, we are at the perfect intersection of a sports and a gaming platform, where you watch a sport and they come and game with us, right? We are trying to create more and more formats of gaming, or help entrepreneurs create more and more formats of gaming. What we see is that our users, right, we have a lot of significant overlap with, let's say, the PUBGs or the Free Fires of the world. So we do believe that, mid-core gaming has arrived in India. It may have arrived with global titles. And I think Indian titles need to come out, which would sort of create the kind of noise that some of these global titles have. We need to come up with our own sort of genres, right? If you look at what's taking off in the country is a multiplayer battle royale format in gaming, right? That's interesting, right? But that started in the US with League of Legends, went back to China, Korea, and now it's come back and it's been exported to us. I think that the next 5 years, we'll start seeing our own formats of gaming that Indians like to do. And we're very interested in looking at that. It could be number one priority for us is sports gaming, right? Indian sports. And how can games be developed on Indian sports or cricket for that matter? We still think that there's a lot of room there for improvement. And the number two, obviously, would be our own formats and genres. And then obviously, eventually, all of this, Ali, will lead into esports, right? And there's many, this as well as I do. There's many derivatives into the esports market once the gaming titles are there.
Got it. I just want to quickly kind of just remind the audience that, we'll have a few minutes at the end for Q&A. So if you guys have a question for Dave or even for myself, there's a Q&A tab, hopefully on the right-hand side of your screen. So please pop in a couple of questions. We'll be happy to take a couple of questions and potentially can get back offline also at a later date. So we'll have a few minutes to ask a couple of questions live, or I can do that on your behalf. So just use the Q&A tab on the right to kind of do that. Dave, that's a good segue into my second question, right? And I've been kind of pondering about this, and you touched upon it. There are titles like PUBG where, mid-core to AAA gaming became like a reality at a mass market level with kind of significant audience adoption. We've obviously got Free Fire that's taken some space in the hiatus that PUBG had between the on-again, off-again situation. One of the questions, actually, it's a two-part question, right? One is the premise of gaming global as a content asset, right? Will Indians play local content assets? Because in the business of audio, in the business of video, on business of content, and I'm using the content word very generically, India has an average of anywhere between 90 to 95% consumption of local content, right? Would that also hold good for the business of gaming in terms of local context or local stories or local graphics? So there's the two-part question is that what's the kind of role of local content generation in the business of gaming, including angles of sports? I'm asking more a generic question in gaming. And the second part question is, what's the large difference between mid-core and AAA, right? Because by nature of business, there needs to be a higher aspiration, higher monetization, higher scale potential with higher quality, and hence kind of getting into more of the AAA space rather than the mid-core space because consumers kind of gravitate in that direction, right? because essentially gaming was, or AAA gaming was a console PC market in so-called developed worlds, especially with the advent of 5G. I don't know if you read about it, but Airtel's kind of 5G trial last week was two gamers in India kind of actually showcasing the quality of the network, using gaming, game streaming or cloud streaming as a play, right? So, would you believe that there is going to be significant development happening in the AAA space in the next 3 to 5 years? So, again, re-emphasizing local content and also in terms of the kinds of game development and kind of the investments that kind of go around it.
Yeah, I think you should answer this question yourself because I know you have a strong view on it. But I think my view is 100%. Like I said, in the previous question, there will be indigenous formats, indigenous content coming through, whether it's built on epic like the Mahabharat or it's built on Indian sports games. There is huge potential. There is no reason, right? I don't see any reason for us to just follow, right? We will come up with our own. Yes, we're dabbling around with tens of millions of MAUs in global titles. I'm waiting to see, and I'm very curious to see what those genres are, where people say, okay, this is an Indian genre in many ways. An Indian genre backed with Indian content, with Indian game developers. It could be in partnership with global developers, but there's something that needs to happen. And like I said, I'm very eager to meet entrepreneurs who, have taken a step back and said that, we want to spend a year. So gaming is very binary, right, Ali? It's like art. It works, and if it doesn't, then all your efforts can go to waste in many ways. Not waste, but they're not used for that particular purpose. So you need very dedicated entrepreneurs who just are very, very passionate about this. Now, the encouraging thing that I see is that starting with casual games, Zynga and all of that, all the way going to, let's say, EA in sports games or Take-Two, I'm sure, or Bluehole or wherever you want to look, I'm sure there's Indians sitting in there saying, hey, maybe I should come up with something for India, right?
Sure.
And I think it's a matter of time. It's just a matter of that content coming through and then people will adopt. What I'm seeing so far is people are saying, oh, I've seen a Grand Theft Auto. I've built India's Grand Theft Auto. Okay. I've seen PUBG. I've built XYZ. I don't even need to name the title, right? That came and went. Right. So that's just the beginning. People need to be much more innovative, much more build up from the ground up. Game design and game economics is where people are learning. But I think once that happens, I'm very optimistic that, in the next few years, we'll see at least a few globally relevant titles come through.
But Dave, tell me before we kind of jump on to the next question. Yeah. So is 100 million MAU or 100 million DAO going to be focused on local content? Like, I'm just saying, what's the split between local and international? What's your kind of gut feel? Because I'm saying that, as I said, right, all other content businesses, about 90% consumption is local. Is that also going to be the case for gaming?
I think it'll develop over time, and I don't know if it's 100 million or 500 million. No idea.
I'm just saying, the logic of 100 million is it's mass, it's critical mass, right? That's the point. I'm not saying it's a 500 million audiences. I'm saying it's a critical mass of 100 million now gaming. I'm saying those 100 million daily customers, are they playing local games or international games? I'm saying, what's your gut? And I'm not saying 2021, say 22 or 23.
Currently, it's all international. From my point of view, it's all international or internationally inspired content.
Okay.
And
but I'm 2 years down the line?
I'm sure there's something happening in mythology, in astrology, all of those things, but most of it right now is inspired by the West or the East in some ways, right? Okay. And that's what I meant, that it'll take time, but people will see this user traction, see the PUBGs and Free Fires be successful, and say, listen, we should create something which is for India only, our own formats. And I see sports gaming as a place that we are really, very, very keen. So, for example, if someone has, any sports game out there, right? That goes from, let's say, a bite-sized mid-core to a AAA, like you said, Ali. We're very interested to look at that, right? If it has international quality graphics and game design, all of it.
Got it.
The second part of your question was, are we going to see, I think you were saying consoles facilitate AAA, hardcore gaming, and PCs, and can you actually have that in India, or are we going to stay more towards casual or mid-core? Was that the question?
Yeah, so both. So one is, do we stay more towards casual mid-core versus AAA, because AAA is higher quality and potentially higher monetization asset capability? And obviously, the second part of that question being the kind of investments, some of the Legends Only League or Destinies, for example, like bigger games like that have
Yeah,
hundreds and millions of dollars investments, right?
yeah,
India can potentially make a similar quality at hopefully 50% of that cost, but still that's a large ticket size. So it's a chicken and egg situation. You have a market, you have the investments that do come in, right? But when you're in
yeah.
the stage that you're building, how do you look at an investment of say 40, $50 million ticket size investment in high quality game development when the market's still developing? So how does the chicken and egg kind of pan out in the next 3 years?
I think this has to start with bite-sized mid-core, and I don't think that there's definitely a market for casual, right? But I won't go there, right? Casual, real money gaming is where people are monetizing right now. Um, I'm not. I have some question marks on that model, where people are playing Ludo and betting money on it. That's not games of skill. Um, but that's the way the Indian market is heading when it comes to casual. But when it comes to bite-sized mid-core, when you see the biggest driver of these revenues, right, it's in-app purchases. And bite-sized mid-core starts with Free Fire, right? Free Fire is basically a game that works like PUBG on a lower-end phone, customized for India, with IAP designed for India, lighter, faster, flexible. It's not like that they've just come in and taken the space and then, in my opinion, that PUBG will just come and derail them again. They're growing and they're on their own journey. So C Limited, Garena was good in customizing that particular format, both from a hardware capability point of view, graphics, and monetization point of view. I think mid-core is where you get the critical mass right now, Ali. And when you start seeing the tens of millions, I don't even say hundreds of million MAUs, that's when people will start getting better and upskilling in these formats, where then you will have globally relevant esports teams that will come and compete in global tournaments, right, for these games. And as many. So I don't. There's enough PUBG Free Fire tournaments happening now in India to say that this is now becoming competitive. You don't need to have a AAA game on a console or on a PC. I think India's going to stay there for a while, and I think we will have competitive gaming on mobile. We may not need the console or PC or VR or AR for a while. People may engage and create niche formats there and games there, but I think the focus and the opportunity right now, as I said, is indigenous formats, Indian gaming studios building high quality global games in mid-core, which is what we're looking for.
Got it. We don't have too much time, and I want to touch up on one topic also, but I'm just going to quickly kind of leave the audience with one thing, right? What we're seeing in other forms of content is this kind of yo-yo swing that goes from like the handset, actually started from the large screen, which is television, goes to the device, is actually going back into the large screen now, right? So because of purely the kind of quality of connectivity or broadband connectivity in general, we're seeing a significant amount of high quality content consumption happen on large screen devices again, right? So it's almost like this circular yo-yo that's currently happening. So we also anticipate gaming to kind of go through that route where essentially if a lot of cloud capability does exist, which is obviously some time away, but gaming again transpires obviously handheld gaming versus gaming again on the large screen through cloud networks. So that's something that will also jump maybe a generation quite quicker. But Dev, I want to focus on one
Agreed.
last topic and maybe spend a couple minutes on it. With different companies like FanCode, I know you've taken in a couple of other companies, different stages. How do you look at synergies and culture for the larger kind of Dream Sports organization? What's the kind of role that the leadership plays? What's the kind of culture that you're looking to create? Right, we've talked a lot about bigger gaming studios in the West and the kind of culture that's important that stays with the team for the next 5 to 10 years, right, in general. So talk to us something about the larger aspirations of the culture you're looking to create, and is it different from the current kind of tech culture that exists?
Yeah. Look, our CEO, if you look at LinkedIn, his title is not CEO, it's Culture Enforcement Officer. So Harsh is taking it upon himself to make sure that the culture that the group has built, filters through within Dream 11 as we get larger, within FanCode, and within each portfolio company. Now we need to balance that a little bit with the stage that the company is in. right? If we acquire a business like we've acquired Rollercool to be our sports gaming studio, and it's called Dream Game Studios, we would like it to be, in its own sort of environment to thrive and be entrepreneur led in terms of what matters, right? Do all of our culture elements matter? Yeah, transparency, integrity, being data obsessed, all of those things is very, very important. But do we need to go, do they need to have the kind of systems that Dream 11 has, which is state of the art and very, probably not, which is why, look, DreamCap is there to kind of balance both, getting the best from Dream Sports and letting the entrepreneurs thrive in their own environment. And that's what we want to do. But I think one thing is very, very important. We are user first. So, when you think about what we do at Dream 11, creating an experience, when we think about places that we're investing, whether it's sports, gaming, or fitness, we're thinking about how to improve the user's experience, life, entertainment, whatever it may be, and do it so dramatically that it becomes a core part of his or her life, right? So I think that's what we focus on. We focus on our growth will happen with retention, and retention will lead to growth. So a lot of this is sort of like imbibed in us that we talked about, and I think that's really where entrepreneurs can benefit, right? When they take capital from us, not only are they getting market competitive terms, but they're also getting this kind of at least I won't say guidance, but support, right? And our investment committee is not a bunch of finance guys. It's some finance guys and a CMO, a CPO, a CTO who can just go in there and say, listen, man, this is how your life is going to change in a year when your product gets to this stage or whatever's going to happen. And I find that very exciting and very interesting. I'm sure entrepreneurs will also find it very compelling.
Got it. I've got this timer sitting on my head, so it's like a gunshot at my back, but which was 2 minutes and 23 seconds and counting down. There's one interesting question, but Dave, you're going to send that to you later. I want to ask you another kind of question in general, right? And this might be slightly tricky, so you've got the next couple minutes to think about it and tell me what you think. How do you look at competition, right? Like fantasy and I'm coming back to the core business, RMG are both kind of in this larger space of, say, gaming, and I'm putting that under a bracketed umbrella. What does competition look like? How do you sleep at night in terms of thinking about competition, or competition doesn't matter? Focus. The cliched answer is competition does great things. We continue to do what we're focused on. I get that, right? But how do you see competition evolving in this space? Where do you see the next big kind of entity coming from? Let's take the next maybe minute 30 just to talk about that.
Yeah, Ali, you asked me a question which, look, I came here to talk about DreamCap, right? So I think that's what I can focus on. I can say one thing very general, very vague. We don't believe that India is a growing market. Yeah. We don't believe anyone is stable and has built a business that can, you can, technology, you can see the changes in the US, right? Where things are changing. We don't see things as what we used to call in business school, red oceans, where things are competitive. There's XYZ in there. You can't displace them, all of that. For the entrepreneurs in the room, I'll just say, right, everything for us is a white space in a blue ocean, because it's about recreating that experience and creating engagement, right? You've seen that happen many a times, right? We see OnePlus as a sponsor here, right? Could they have made a dent with the iPhone, right? They did, just because they focused on user experience, right? And created a cultish kind of following. So I'm giving you a very vague, very general answer, but because I can't go deeper. But I think the point is, yes, we see ourselves as a sports engagement platform through fantasy sports. And the idea is for us to sort of is to grow that and then expand the ecosystem. You don't have the Tencents coming out of India right now. We hope that we can create our own version, not follow Tencent, but our own version of Tencent. And that's how we're looking at this as $100 billion opportunity. That's all I can say.
No, so I think that's great. I think the basic response is disruption is going to continue to happen, and you can have Indian versions of Tencent. And we hope Dream Sports does become one of them in their version of it, and there's many others that do come about. So I want to quickly kind of thank Dave for his time. I apologize if there's a couple of questions were a little pointed in a different direction, but I hope the audience enjoyed it. And thank you, Dave, for taking time out today.
Thanks. See you guys. Bye.
Yes, Dev sir. Thank you, Mr. Bajaj and Mr. Hussain for being here with us today and making this possible. Another thank goes to all our attendees who are here with us today. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Take care and stay safe. Thank
See
you.
you. Thanks.
Yeah, see you.